Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney. And we are answering publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. And I could have sworn that I had already answered these questions, but I found them in the queue, and on the off chance I didn't answer them, I'm going to answer them now because I want to get people their answers. We have a question here from YouTube user Kokobo Chick, which I believe to be a Final Fantasy reference. I was a big fan of the first Final Fantasy, and I think like number 3 or number 4, depending on whether you're counting the sequels by the Western numbers or by the Japanese numbers. But either way, great username, Kokobo Chick. Those big yellow birds just ran their way into our hearts, didn't they? All right, so we have a question here. It is as so. Is an employee truly out of luck once the statute of limitations runs out? Especially with the pandemic having been used as an excuse to delay addressing things, it sucks that after a certain period of time, employers no longer need to be worried about being held accountable for their actions, especially ones that are so good at giving employees the runaround. Okay, so 2 things you can do here. I don't know which statute of limitations you are speaking about. I'm assuming if you're on this channel, it's going to be tied to the federal workplace discrimination or the federal workplace sexual harassment statute of limitations, which depending on where you are, could be either 180 days or 300 days. That is insanely short, as I think you're referencing in your question, right? It just doesn't make sense. It's way too short. Now, are you out of luck really truly if that federal statute of limitations runs out? Well, not necessarily, but probably. But not. Let's get into it. So it depends on where you are, right? If you run through those 300 days, but you're in New York State, well, you are in luck because you're going to have a 3-year statute of limitations for those same things, right? Under the state human rights law and potentially the New York City human rights law, you get a full 3 years. Now, is that going to be different from state to state and local jurisdiction to local jurisdiction? It sure is, and that's scary. That's scary stuff, right? And also, frankly, you don't want to pick and choose. You want to get your case in under the federal statute of limitations and then also file your state and local claims, right? So don't be losing claims from the federal side of things just because you didn't get it filed in time. Try to get it in there. It's much better for you potentially if you can get it in there. It's going to give your attorney a little more room to work, a lot more they can do. Could potentially give you access to national firms depending on the circumstances. You're losing a lot if you lose your federal claims. Now, is that a great answer? No, because what you're really asking me here is like, hey, is there some kind of, is the government doing something for folks with the pandemic? The world was kind of shut down. It was hard to file your case. And the answer there is no. Government specifically made these statute of limitations short because they don't want too many claims getting filed. They're perfectly happy to watch claims die on the vine. And from their perspective, the EEOC filing site was up the whole time. Now, the EEOC wasn't doing their job, you could argue, but they're going to say, well, you can file, right? And that's why they're not going to do anything, I suspect, for folks who, might have been delayed by the pandemic. Now, I think I also have a video on the channel about the continuing violation doctrine. That could be something you look at and trying to rope additional events that are outside of statute of limitations into a statute of limitations if there are still events within that statute of limitation. It's not fully responsive here because I think what you're saying is that everything is outside the statute of limitations for your purposes. So, that may or may not be responsive. But I did want to mention it here because it's it could be responsive for you. It could be valuable information. There's a video on that channel, I believe, on that topic. Pulling additional things that are older than your statute of limitations inside the statute of limitations by making that continuing violation doctrine argument. I hope this helps. I hope it does, very, very sincerely. And I'm sorry if bad things happened while the pandemic was going and you weren't able to file on your federal claims, but check with local counsel for your state and local claims. if you weren't able to file your federal claims, check with state and local counsel for your state and local claims. Those could still be timely. Often they have a longer statute of limitations. Okay? Good luck to you. Take care.